But when I first released a big block of mine from all these deeper levels, I had this feeling of peace and safety the next couple of days that triggered me, because I never felt that. And I was like, it's not safe for me to feel so much peace and safety for no reason.
Hello, my love. Welcome to Empowering Vibes. I'm so happy that you're here, and I have a very special episode in store for you. My guest today is Roswitha Herman, who used to work for Tony Robbins, then started her own business, and is now working as a money coach. In this episode, she shares with you how you can transform limiting money beliefs on a cellular level, but also how she overcame the most challenging year of her life with her husband getting sick, them losing their house, and her struggling with depression, which made her the amazing, strong woman that she is today. This episode is packed with nuggets of wisdom, so enjoy listening or watching. I am so grateful and excited to have such a beautiful, astonishing, and inspiring guest on the show today. Roswitha, thank you so much for being here and welcome to Empowering Vibes.
Oh, thank you so much, Hannah, for having me, for making this happen in the end, because it's been like a month in progress. So I'm very honored to be here.
I'm so excited too. I would actually like to start with your journey and your personal story, because you used to be a fashion blogger. Then you were like one of the youngest coaches of Tony Robbins. And now you have your own business and you're working as a money coach. So how did that journey evolve?
Over like 12 years time span. So it's like a lot of time that people don't take into consideration. So I was passionate about fashion since I was young, very young. I think I inherited that from my grandmother, who was a model back in, I don't know, 60s, 70s, I don't know, but like a long time ago. And I was living in a family that was very strict about clothing and no makeup, no jewelry, no nothing religious wise. So I always like, when I am big, I'll do whatever I want to, and I'm going to pierce my ears, and I'm going to have all this fabulous clothes and makeup and all the things. So unfortunately, when I was about to go to college, there was recession. So although I had the grades and I was admitted into the best college in Europe, I was supposed to study overseas. My parents could not afford to even like allow me to go there, because I would have a full scholarship, but just the living expenses. So that for me was like, I think the first time when I really battled big depression and anxiety and frustration and anger at the world and anger at God and all the things. So I was starting to understand what's happening to me. So I went to engineering school just as a like, what the heck do I do? Because I wanted to do marketing and I wanted to do other things. But in my country, I was supposed to stay now in my country because there was no resources to go anywhere else. And I'm from Romania, which was back then a third world country. So it was totally different than what it's today, when we're, a really, it's okay country now. And I just enrolled to studying engineering because I was very good at math and physics, and I loved that, although that was not what I wanted to do in life. But I was like, safe bet. What will I do? And then I was like, if I'm going to do this that I don't want to do, but just to have a safe bet, then I'm going to do something with fashion, because that's what I want. Like, at least I'm going to do something for my soul. So with my boyfriend, then husband now, he took care of the tech part, the website and all the things that I had no idea how to do. And I just wrote, like, I just put my soul out there and all that. And 4 years later, our blogs, because he opened a men's fashion blog too, because he saw, he learned through mine, and then he, like he was excited too about his own fashion ideas and all the things for men. And our blogs became super successful. Like, we had at one point even 20 people on our team, like editorial team. We were invited to all fashion weeks. We had front row seats in New York Fashion Week. So again, 4 years before this, I was a student from Romania who didn't even have money to go study abroad at the school that she really wanted to. And she had to live with her grandma because there was no money to, rent a place or anything else. And I wanted, like, I imagined myself, Carrie from Sex and the City, like, one day I will walk into New York City, and like nobody I've ever known went to US at all. Like, imagine me, like, nobody would ever believe I could ever go to New York, not to mention to Fashion Week. Like, can I swear? Is that okay? Okay. So who the fuck do you think you are to have these dreams? Like, no. And then I set the intention that I will, like, one day I will be like, that's the goal with this blog, to go to New York Fashion Week. 8 months later, I went to New York for the first time, like amazing manifestation. 4 years later, I was in front row New York Fashion Week. After I finished that, there was nothing more with my blog. Like, I've hit my biggest goal, my biggest dream. I still was passionate about fashion, but it was not fulfilling me anymore. It's like, what's next? Like, every year to go to Fashion Week and that's it? Like, I want more than that. Like, I want something else. In college, I also started to go to therapy. As I mentioned, I had multiple things that I was very frustrated in the world, that I couldn't fulfill my own like college that I really wanted to go to. And going to therapy, I realized that I love what my therapist does, like, have your own schedule and work with people and helping them and all that. But I didn't want to go to another university for 4 years. I was like, no, like, I want to make money like right away. Like, I don't want to wait for, I don't know how long until I can make some money. And then I discovered coaching. Back then, this was 8 years ago, there were only like 3 big coaching schools in the world. Coaching was not mainstream. Now, nobody knew what a coach was, like, besides sports coach. Like, I mean, like, self-development coach, like Tony Robbins and a few were the only ones that people will hear about, but there was nothing big. So I joined one of the biggest coaching schools. 1 year later, when I was not even 1 year, 6 months later, you were allowed to have your first paying clients, like, legally. I had my first paying client, and since then, I've always had clients, like, and now it's like 8 years later. I started as I became to coach people. You never know what kind of coach you are, because you're just starting. So you're like, I think I know what I want to do, but I'm not sure if that's what I want to do. So all the things that I noticed from my first ever client was that all people made more money, find their purpose, and manifest everything that they want. Like, this was something that I was good at without knowing how I'm doing it. Like, I didn't have like a process, like, look, you go here. It would just happen. And then years later, I developed a process to getting everything that you want. And then in 2019, I had a breakdown, because finally I had the money to invest in all the things I wanted for my business, like ad manager, a lot of money to put into ads. I had a funnel. I had all the flashy things you would ever think you need to make 10K on autopilot. So that was my goal in 2019, to make 10K every single month without me doing anything. Like, something is being done behind the scenes, money goes into ads, people just come in, I do nothing, and I just count the money. Kind of, that was the idea, the passive income mirage. And it didn't happen. I spent a lot of money. I worked my ass off, and we made zero money in 3 months. Actually, like, it was such a shit show. And I was having such a huge breakdown that I'm so good at this. I was making 10K already when I was launching. So how come when I do by myself, I can do it? When I hired all these things and I had all these flashy things and the best website and sales page and all that thing, we made zero money in 3 months, zero money. So I took like a few months of just fixing myself, like fixing my disappointment and what does it mean and all those things. And I realized that the big component of the manifesting process I didn't have. Because just like everybody else, I didn't study manifesting. I was just reading books and watching YouTube. And for years, like, I started this when I was in college. So I thought I just knew what manifesting was. But the truth was, I didn't. It was still hope. Like, I hope that by doing this exercise, I will manifest, but I would never have like, oh, I know for a fact that this will work or this will not work. So in the next 6 months, I just kind of dived into, okay, what is manifesting? How can we explain it? What is the physical process behind it? Like, what's bullshit and what's real? Because everybody seems to know manifesting, but do they really? So in 2020, I figured out what was the process. I applied it to myself. It worked like miraculously. And I was like, okay, I think I hit a gold mine here. And then I created my Manifesting Queen course, where like now it's like 3 years later, it works. Like, it's a process. Now I can truly guide someone to a step-by-step approach, and they can see why they're manifesting or why they're not manifesting. It's no longer I hope I'm going to manifest. So if I write every day my goals, I hope it's going to happen. Like, that's not how it works. Like, we go behind the scenes, and I explain to you why it will work or why it would not work. Because there is like, it's not going to be magical. Your life is not going to be saved in a second. It's just about you having control and understanding what's your responsibility, how to let go, and how to embrace life every day just like it is. So I don't know if I answered your question, but I took you through all the evolutions of my life.
What would you say if you now had to explain in like 1 to 5 minutes what manifesting actually is, and what is kind of the stuff that's not working and what is the true process? How would you explain that?
Such a great question, Hannah. And the truth is, nothing works. Like manifesting does not work for you if anything that you do in order to manifest, no matter what ritual, what exercise you do, is to get something. So you want to do any ritual, any exercise, anything that you learn online because it would make you happy in the moment, not to get something in the future. So that's what doesn't work. Now, what is manifesting? How does it work? I use the formula that Abraham Hicks gave us many, many years ago. I just mapped it differently. Like I use the same formula, but when I explain how do we put that formula into practice, that's my own version. So the formula is this way. Step number 1, you ask for what you want. That happens automatically. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to focus on it unless you want to clarify. But usually when you see something you don't like, instantly you'll know what you like. Like that's how you ask for things. When you see something you do like somebody having a better house and you're like, oh my God, I want a house just like that. Again, it happens automatically. Step number 2, the universe create that desire in energy form. Just when you create it in your mind, it gets created instantly in energy form. Everything that you ever think about, it gets created in energy form. And that's why there's a blessing of not manifesting everything that you think in instant form, because you might think of an elephant right now because you see one on TV and then instantly would be in your living room. You don't want that. What would you do with an elephant in your living room? That's crazy. So there is a lag time between the energetic form of what we're thinking and the manifestation in physical reality of what we thought. And that is in step number 3. In order for us to enter receiving mode, we need to go to step number 3. Most people never really enter receiving mode with certain goals they have because they have a lot of fears and they don't feel worthy yet. So these two are the secret. It's not like you're never going to have fears. You don't need to have zero fear or to feel 1000% worthy, but to be like less fear and more worthy. And the fastest you get there in that energy, the fastest your manifestation will show into reality. So then you're in step 3. Like when you feel worthy of whatever you're asking for, when you feel like it's safe for you to receive that, so nothing bad will happen. You know, a lot of women, when we talk about money, you know, they're like, oh, I want a lot of money. But without even realizing, behind their cognitive mind, behind their conscious mind, there's this fear that, oh my God, what if the tax man will come and get me? What if I'm making some mistakes? What if I'll spend it all and I'm not going to have money for groceries in 3 months because I was so irresponsible? So there's so many fears that women might not even realize they have. And because of that, they're not going to receive the money because it's not safe. And the universe and your body will always protect you of what's unsafe, because it want to keep you happy and safe and protected. So that's why. Let's say you become, you know, you're worthy of what you're asking for. You feel safe to have it. Then in order to get to step 4, you take inspired action. It's not a specific action. You don't have to do what other people are doing. It's more of the action that will make you happy. It's like the action that will give you purpose, the action that will excite you. And as you take that action, and it can be, today it can be cooking, tomorrow it can be painting, the next day can be having clients meeting, that like it's not a specific kind of action. Then in step number 4, when you're getting there, your manifestation came to life. Like you're enjoying it now. And there's step number 5. So my job with everything that I do, especially with my course, is to help women to understand that the purpose of living is to be in step number 4 to step number 5. Like if you are most of your life in this part of the manifestation map, then you're going to enjoy life at the fullest. Because step number 4 is like, I received what I wanted and now I can just be here enjoying what I wanted. And when step number 5 comes, that's contrast. That's like when something shitty happens again, because it will always happen. Like you cannot protect yourself from bad things, quote unquote, bad things happening. They will always be there. But when you're in step 5, you're no longer beating yourself up like, oh my God, I made a mistake and that's why I'm here. Or, oh my God, you know, I didn't protect myself enough. I didn't control the situation enough. I didn't control my team or my husband or this and that. And that's why I'm here again or whatever. No, it's just normal to happen. And you feel safe because you're like, okay, if this happened, then we added new beliefs, like everything happens for my highest good and I can handle it and I will figure it out and I'm not alone and the universe will guide me or God will guide me. Like this belief that we need to receive. Like we need to have them in ourselves. Otherwise contrast will just defeat us, will just make us feel like the worst possible, moment. And then the cycle goes again. Because of the contrast that you're experiencing, you create new desires. Those desires are creating energy form. And then if you feel worthy and you feel safe to have them, then you're going to manifest them. And it's just a never ending cycle. Is it clear now?
Absolutely. For somebody listening who is like, I want this, like I know exactly what I want this manifestation, I'm ready to like attract it into my life, but how do we feel worthy of this manifestation if somebody has a belief of I'm just not good enough due to something that happened in their childhood or something that happened in school, like so many of us carry this belief. So how do we feel worthy of our manifestation?
What an amazing question again. And these are not easy to answer questions because it's not like an easy fix. Like, oh, you just write this and then you feel worthy overnight. Like, no, unfortunately, it doesn't work like that. There are different modalities to feel worthy. This past year, what I've learned, another missing piece, as I'm saying, every shitty moment in my life kind of got me to the other side of, oh, what do I need to learn? What do I need to get better at so I can help myself and the world? So one thing that I've learned was trauma, like going back into the trauma healing. And I'm not a trauma therapist, so I'm not going to say that I can cure trauma or no, but I can work on the money trauma and anything that has to do like that I can do. And I'm very good at it. I can even call myself an expert. Anything else, that's not my domain. So I would go to see, where is this not good enough coming from? Because it can come from different planes. It can come from things that you've learned in this lifetime, like based on your childhood, based on who your parents were, all these things. It can come from DNA. Like it's like such a big trauma that your ancestors suffered from, that it was passed down through generations. And this is written even in the Bible, like 7 generations, the DNA will pass on. So if something happened traumatic, you will inherit that. So it's just like we need to address that. And we can test that, several modalities that I work with. Then it can be even past different lifetimes. Like if you believe in that sort of things. For me, this was not something that I believed in necessarily, but as life guided me, I was like, okay, I'm open to understanding that we might have different lifetimes, and you might carry it with you energetically from something that happened to you where you learn that you're never going to be good enough, like you're broken or you're bad or whatever it is that you're carrying it with you. So then based on what we're learning about the person who I'm helping, then we release it to different modalities. So this is when people work with me one-on-one, because we can dive deep into something. When they don't work with me one-on-one, I think the easiest way to start this process is to see, what are the reasons why you don't feel worthy yet? Is it because you don't know enough? And if yet, what can you learn? Like what are your knowledge gaps that you feel, oh, because of that, I don't feel worthy yet? Go study that. Go buy that book. Go buy that course. Go to university, whatever. It's your path of least resistance, but go do it. Don't delay it and use it as an excuse, because it's not going to go away. It's not going to disappear. Like you either change the belief or you take action to feel safer. So one of the others. Then it's likely again to see if it comes from your parents, something that you've learned in this lifetime is, who do you blame for what? Your lack of this belief in yourself, your lack of not feeling worthy. Is it your teachers? Is it your parents, your grandparents, whoever, certain people? Like, and then we kind of, it's not like we forgive them, because forgiveness is such a deep work and it's not necessarily the next step, depending for every single person. I would not say, oh, if your parents treat you like shit, oh, now it's your job to forgive them. No, it's not your job to forgive them. It's your job to forgive parts of yourself who you have, silence throughout the years, when they were shouting and they were feeling anxious and they were feeling afraid and they were like all this situation. You were like, oh, you're not allowed to speak now because I'm busy working on my business, or all these things you didn't really see in them. Like, we forgive ourselves first. We don't forgive necessarily other people. We forgive ourselves for never seeing how hurt we were, for never validating our own feelings, because we didn't know how to do that. Like, I didn't know how to validate my own feeling. I didn't know I had anxiety until like the last couple of years, where I realized, oh my God, I'm constantly anxious. I didn't know that this is what anxiety feels like. I just thought that's who I am. Like, I just thought that that's being me. And no, oh, you can have a life without anxiety. Oh, that's nice. So like, I think that's why I'm saying it's a very complex answer. Does it answer your question?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I can 100% agree. Also for me, like I used to have that belief too, and going back to like my inner child and healing all the past experiences that transformed a lot. And I feel like it's an onion and you peel one layer and then it comes up and you get out of your comfort zone. You get your business or your life, your career, your marriage, or like your partnership to the next level, and it pops up again and you look at it again. And I think I just want the audience to understand this is not I do one exercise and it's gone. It might pop up again and again. And I feel like every time we go deeper and transform, like get more to the core of it.
Exactly. And this is that I'm so happy that you touched on this, because this is what I tell my clients that come to my course, that you don't just do it once. You don't buy this course to do it once, because I kind of promise, if you do the course, you can triple your revenue. Like I've seen it over and over and over again. It works. But that's not why you buy it. I always say buy it to redo it at least a couple of times a year, because each time you go through the process, you uncover something deeper and deeper, because our nervous system cannot handle the truth. Like this is real. Like your nervous system cannot handle knowing all the shit that happened to you in one go. You will go crazy. And I do not suggest you do that. So if you go with the pace of your nervous system, each time you go deeper, it's going to be safe to uncover one shitty situation from your life that you can handle it, you can process it, you can internalize and not make you go crazy or all the other things. So then the next time it feels safer to go a little bit. That's why the onion exists, like this principle, because otherwise you will literally go crazy. Like your brain will just shut down if you know all the bad things that happened to you or all the things that you were exposed to and all the yucky things.
Absolutely. And I feel, or like something that helped me on my journey when I started, I worked a lot with hypnosis, and I'm a really big fan of working with the subconscious mind. And somebody once told me that whatever the subconscious mind releases, that's exactly what you can handle. And that gave away the fear that I used to have when I started these process of like, oh my gosh, maybe something comes up that I can't handle or something like this. And that gave me just more trust in the process.
Yes, another good observation. You're so right. That's exactly. And even I still I don't know how long will this be published, but I had an offer, a free release session with me for anybody who feels drawn to. And in this session, we talk about money, like releasing beliefs about money. And all the time, we never know what will come to the surface. Like we'll never know. And everybody is like, oh my God, I had no idea this memory or this situation was connected to my money fears. Like it would never, occur to me, because that's exactly right. We store all our beliefs are created around stories that we internalized. And those stories might not even be completely true. They're true for our mind, but if you know how memories can be deceiving sometimes, but it's just how our brain will work. Like it will just create some story about what happened or what we understood it happened back then. And then based on that, we build beliefs and then we reinforce them every time something bad happens. Like, oh my God, because I'm bad, because I'm not worthy, because I'm stupid, because whatever it is. So thank you for pointing that out. And hypnosis is such an amazing tool. I use hypnosis too in all my practices now, because it's such a fast way to go in, figure it out, come out and release it.
Absolutely. And it's 90% of everything that's going on. Even though we feel like we're totally in control and everything is just our mind, it's actually just 5% of everything that's happening. And that's actually what I would like to talk next about, because I read that you say, like, with the topic money, mindset is actually just such a minor part. And so many coaches teach only money mindset, and kind of like that's the solution. But you say that it's actually our nervous system who needs to handle the money. So would you explain that further?
Yes, thank you for asking that. So I also thought money mindset was the most important thing, because myself included have learned from other people who were, just sharing this. I was like, oh, of course they're better than me. So they must know this truth. So I'm just going to teach it too. And then in 2019, when I had that awakening and I realized, oh, money mindset is not enough, because I was doing that. I was an expert at that. And for some reason, I couldn't manifest what I wanted, all the money that I wanted. So what was the missing piece? And the missing piece was this: going deeper. Because so I'm going to speak from my experience, and this works for me, and people similar to me. I was a achiever, like an overachiever. I was a straight A student. I was very in charge of my mind. I could control anything with my mind. Like if I had to stop eating sugar, I would stop eating sugar. If I had to work until like 30-hour days, I would work 30 hours. Like I could control myself so well. And these people, which are a lot of people like us, especially women, because we were taught to be like better than men and all the other things that come up with this, you don't go deep. Like you don't feel your feelings. You don't have time to feel your feelings. Feeling your feelings means you're weak. Feeling your feelings means you're going to stop from working or stop from achieving or stop from having what you want. So these people need to go deep because they will burn out. And that's what we're seeing even in our industry with women who are incredible at their jobs and they make lots of money and then they burn out and they don't want to work anymore because they're just like, they cannot reproduce the same results working the same way because it's just like killing them. This is what happened. This was my story too. And I realized, okay, if I cannot continue this way, how do I continue? Like, what is this? What is the solution? And the solution was, oh, I need to go deep and understand why am I so forcing, because money mindset is like forcing something you don't yet believe to believe. And it doesn't work. It works with certain beliefs. So when I work with my private clients, we check to see. So like let's say, tell me if you want, we can do it like one practice, just like a short exercise here with you. Like tell me 3 beliefs you have around money.
The more money I have, the more good I can do in the world.
Okay, that's an empowering belief. Tell me 3 limiting beliefs so we can.
Okay. I used to have, and sometimes it's still popping up, like there's not enough. Kind of like the fear, or let's say I don't have the belief, but I always have the fear of that it's not enough. That even though I have enough money, and we have also in my business, I have an e-commerce store as a business as well. And I very often, even though like there's no reason to, I'm afraid of there's not enough. And rationally, I know the universe is a place of abundance. There's always enough. Money is energy. And still that fear pops up.
Okay, this is a very good example. And I love how you described it. Yeah, but let's work on this one because this is a good one. As you can see, you did the mindset work on this belief. You understand that what you're feeling is not it's not supposed to be the reality because your mind caught up with it. But it's not enough. See how in this example, mindset work is not enough. Because if it would be, then you wouldn't have the fear in your body because it's not in your mind. Like consciously, you understand that it's like irrational, but it still exists. So it means that for this belief, you have to solve it from your nervous system, not from your mind. However, there will be other beliefs that if you just do mindset work on them, they will be out. Like you don't have to go deeper. You don't have to do nervous work. Like you don't have to. So that's the thing. I'm not going to say don't do mindset work. We always need to do mindset work. But mindset work is not enough, especially for beliefs that we carry with us. Like this is not like this one. It's never enough. I don't feel safe having enough. I don't feel safe spending because what if it's going to run out and then I'm going to be punished? Because if you observe, if you really look deep, every single limiting belief that we have that's really, really deep in us has to do with punishment of some sort. I will be punished to suffer. I will be alone. I'll go to hell. It's always about suffering and punishment. And that's the correlation. And that's why it's deeper into us because we have to go back and see where does this come from? Like, why is it so deep? What am I so afraid of punishment? Why is punishment such a bad thing? Or like all the nuances of each thing that means. So I'm so happy that you gave this example that it just proves my theory that's why mindset is not enough. You are living proof that you've done your mindset work and you understand and you don't need to do more mindset work on this. But the way you solve it now, every time it pops up, you can do mindset work. And for a short while, it will go away. Or you can go deeper and deeper and deeper, and then it will go away completely. So when we remove a belief from our nervous system, from all levels, as I mentioned, at the DNA level, the soul level, all these things, it will not show up again, ever. It can show up different nuances, but not the same. Or the only time it will show up again exactly the same is if you are in a moment of vulnerability. Let's say you're sick, or you've been through a loss, or that's like it's traumatic, like either your body is not feeling good or your emotional state is not feeling good. And then you hear someone complaining about not enough, like, oh my God, recession is coming, not enough, this is, and then in that moment, because you're vulnerable, you can accept it as your reality too. And then boom, you have the same block again. That's the only reason when you release something from deeper levels of your body and your energy system, it will come back. Otherwise, it will never come back. Never. But it comes back consistently if you only do mindset work. So this is another big observation.
Absolutely. I found this so fascinating that you said it's also part of kind of like our generations, because I know exactly where the belief is coming from. And I went so often to my inner child and like told my inner child it's safe and like comforted and so on in that situation. And still it comes up. And I just had the kind of epiphany when you said like it's also 7 generations down. I'm coming from Austria, so like of course my grandparents were like experiencing the Second World War. Like my grandma still, I love when she tells me stories about back then when kind of like the Russians came and how they couldn't afford food and stuff, and all these stories. I love to hear that, because now us in our modern society of actually people throwing away tons of food cannot like even imagine living like this. But it's just 2 generations down that it was a huge topic to put enough food on the table. And that's in our DNA. And I found this so fascinating that you explained that, and that this is why we need to work with the body and to get this like on a cell level, to release it on a cell level.
Exactly. And it takes time.
And
like,
how do you do the work? How do you do the work? Do you do it with breath work, or how exactly is the process of releasing it with a client?
So I do not do it with breath work, although I love breath work and I know it's a useful tool. It's not the tool that I personally use. I use, actually right now I'm on the verge of creating my own method of releasing after practicing, because I get obsessed. Like when I learn a new tool that I feel like it works for me, then I practice it like obsessively until I figured out what works and what doesn't work with this tool. Like for people like me, like for exactly, the same personality traits or the same similar traumas. And then last couple of months, because I had a very, very hard year and I had to release a lot and I had to go through a lot, I use Theta healing combined with Sedona method, combined with it's like forgiveness, and combined with energy medicine. And it's just like emotions go, like it's just a mix of things that I do. And with each client is different, because each client is different. Like I know the tools, I can sense their energy. And then because I'm so connected to the energy when I'm working with a client, I can literally just ask them to test several things until we get to the bottom of it. And it's such a fast release. And when they release, especially when we release from a DNA level or from a very, like it's DNA level, it's not like an easy thing. It's like it's gonna change your DNA. Certain genes will be turned off, certain genes will be turned on. Like it literally happens instantly, but your body needs to catch up with that. It's not just gonna be like you're gonna feel wonderful the next second. You're gonna feel relief, but it's gonna take a couple of days to just process. So imagine your body is like a vehicle, and you shift the most important part. Like let's say we talk about electric cars because it's easier. So if you change the software or you upgrade the software completely, it's going to need the time to, update, for all the mechanisms to learn how to function now with this new update. And you need time. So I tell my clients after a big release, please take it easy the next couple of days and journal, because your mind will need to catch up with what's changing in your body. And you're going to maybe have new memories or have new insights or have things that you've never felt before. And it might even scare you. For example, when I first released a big block of mine from all this deeper levels, I had this feeling of peace and safety the next couple of days that triggered me, because I never felt that. And I was like, it's not safe for me to feel so much peace and safety for no reason. Like I would feel that if I have lots of money in my account, I'm like, oh, I feel happy. And I look at my account and I see money and that makes me feel safe. But I would have these feelings with nothing happening. I didn't have more money in my account. Nobody ever said anything. And for me, that was so triggering. So then I had to work on my trigger of feeling safe, of feeling so good, so peaceful. So there's so many nuances, and that's why we don't rush this work. And that's why I do not suggest you do this work with just anybody, or just force it to happen very fast. It's more of really, really following the person that you do with take it slow, because it is long lasting change, and you need to internalize that, like really feel it in your body.
Thank you so much for sharing. I would also like to touch on your last year, because I read on Instagram that you had last year kind of the hardest year of your life, and your husband was ill, you suffered from depression. Like, would you share all the hardships you went through?
Yes, I would. Now I can. A few months ago, I couldn't have. So I think in the beginning, there was this huge shock that I didn't want to accept, which is that something this bad was happening to me. And I was this manifesting queen. Like, I could manifest anything. So why did I manifest this? And I just couldn't, I didn't want to accept what was happening. So for first couple of months, when my husband my husband was sick for many, many years, but I didn't really pay attention to it. I was kind of pretending it wasn't happening because I didn't know how to deal with it. So I knew that I think parts of me knew that if I accept that my husband is sick, then that would destroy me and I wouldn't be able to work. And I was the breadwinner. So I had to work. I had to be the strong one. I had to make it. So I just wouldn't accept it. I was just like, oh, I didn't even tell people. Like, my husband would be sick. We couldn't go. Like, we didn't went on a date in years. And I would just always lie, like have some weird, and I lied so easily, like, because if we don't accept something, it's so easy for you to pretend it's not there. It's so easy for you to lie about it, because it's just like your mind is just creates stories. So last September, October, not last, in 2021, September, October, my husband almost died. Like, literally, there's nothing they could do for him. We went into emergency. They couldn't, like, they were just like, we don't know what to do. They put him on oxygen and just IV fluids. And they were just like, we don't know what to do. Like, literally, he is dying and we don't know what's happening in his body. And that trauma of, like, first of all, I became aware of, oh, he's really sick. Like, I cannot pretend he's not sick anymore. Although we went to thousands of doctors, we spent thousands of dollars on treatments, experimental treatments, he would never know what he had. But in that moment, I think my mind caught up with the reality. It's like, it's happening. You cannot pretend this is not here. So that just put me on a downward spiral. Like, I was just like, became depressed instantly, because I was like, oh my God, what if he dies? I've never even imagined a world without him. Like, it was never a thought. It was like nothing. So I stopped working. I just couldn't work. Like, how can I help other people when I cannot help myself? So for me, that felt unethical. It felt wrong. Like, I just couldn't work. I just had my business on minimum. Like, I had to see the client that they were already paid for my services. So I was able to do that, but that's it. Like, I didn't want to do anything, no social media, no, nothing. So, and I had money because I was making good money. So I had money in my savings. I didn't feel, it was stressful, but I was like, I'm going to get out of this soon. Like, I'm not going to stay in this state forever. Like, I'm going to be fine. Like, it's just for a month or two. 6 months later, I was still there and the money ran out. So then, like, anxiety started. Like, my husband didn't get better. He was already for months on IV. I was all alone. I didn't have support from my parents or his parents. My friends didn't even know what was happening exactly. Like, I started to tell people that, but I was ashamed. Again, I felt like it was my fault. Like, I manifested this. So I felt so ashamed of what I manifested. Like, how can I call myself a manifesting queen if I cannot get out of the situation? So there is so many things to process. Like, what does this mean? And is this even true? Like, is that how manifesting works? Like, as I mentioned, it was so many things. And then I had to ask for support. So I've never asked for support from anybody. Like, for me, asking for help is like cutting your own limb. Like, that's not possible. Like, you cannot ask for help. It means you're stupid, you're weak, it's your fault for being there. It's like super shameful. You're not supposed to do that. So I reached such a low point in my life that there was no other way. I lost my apartment. I even lost my dog because I couldn't take care of him and my husband and myself. Like, it was not possible anymore. And I just felt like everything that I had was taken away. And sometimes I really, like, through my work, I hope nobody has to go there, But sometimes I think we really need to lose everything to really get to the bottom of who we are, like who we really are, not who we think we are, not who we have to be, not who we have pretended to be, but who we really are. So all summer last year, after, as I said, I lost everything, I was like, okay, I really need help. Like I really need help. Because I have my tools, but I didn't use my tools because I couldn't. And I think this is what people don't understand. You can be super smart. You can have all the tools in the world or be the best coach or the best therapist. But when it's happening to you, you yourself cannot save yourself because you don't see the nuances of what's happening in your body, in your mind. It's like, so I finally found a really good therapist, and she was really good at helping me get out of depression because I was suicidal every day, just like nothing. Like when you lose the biggest, for me, it was like I knew how to do manifesting. And when I saw that I cannot manifest anymore and things are just going down, I was like, I lost who I am. Like, what can I do? Like, what's my purpose? If there's no purpose, like I should just die. Like, why even be alive? So I started working with a therapist to kind of get me back into my body and get me back into it's safe to be here. I should be here and all those things. And then in September, I started to work a little bit. In October, I started to work more. And then a few months later, after doing a lot of work on myself, I'm still homeless, by the way, but I have my dog. My husband is no longer dying. So he's still in pain every day, and his health is not super great, but he's not even close to the critical stage he was in last year. So things have started to improve. I'm no longer depressed. And I make a lot of money now. And it only shows that in a couple of months, you can be at the worst possible moment and you can build yourself up with help and support. So I didn't do this by myself. And I've studied a lot. As I said, I realized that, okay, this is what's come up for me, like losing everything and the fear, because I've always had the fear of losing everything. And I had to go through it in order for me to actually learn that it's not the end of the road. And I don't want people to believe that that's the only way to get out of something. Like you can totally heal your wounds and your traumas without having to go through them. That's not necessarily the only option. It was my option. And I think for me, I had to go through it to be able to know what it feels like. Because now I can help so many people because I know exactly what they're feeling when they say, oh, this is how I'm feeling. This is what I've lost. This is who I was. This is who I'm like. I know what that feels like. It's not just a story. It's like I understand exactly what you went through. So now I'm actually excited for this year because I feel so like I've never felt this happy. And happiness is not, I always thought that happiness comes from when you fulfill a dream. And I've always had that, but that is not happiness. That's just excitement of the moment. It's just like, oh my God, I made this money and I'm happy for 5 minutes. And then I'm like, what if I'm not going to make it again? Or like, what if this was the only time? Or I don't know how I did it, or all these things. And now I'm just happy on a daily basis. And nothing has to happen for me to be happy. And I've heard this years ago when people say, oh, just like be happy every day. And I was like, yeah, that doesn't work for me. Like I need to do things. I need to manifest things in order for me to be happy. And now I don't. And I understand why. I was always in a body with a dysregulated nervous system. I was able to manifest everything, which is another complex discussion because you can force things to happen. And I was that person. If I wanted something, I would force things to happen and I would get it. But that will create imbalances, that would create dysregulation in the nervous system, that will create burnout, that will create disease in your body. So you can force, like imagine yourself, if every goal you have is a locked door and every day you have at least one goal that you need to manifest. And then every day you struggle to break a door. You can do it the first day, the second day, maybe 30 days in a row. But at one point you're like, fuck, this shit is hard. I don't want to do this anymore. And then if you learn that, oh, there's keys. Oh, you can get keys to open the door every day. Then you're not even rushing because you don't have to rush if you know you're always going to have a key for whatever door you need to open. It's like, oh, if I have the key, I can open it in 3 hours or I can open it tomorrow. I don't have to open it today if I don't want to. But when you don't know there's a key, it's like, oh my God, I have to maintain my energy to make sure I have enough energy and strength to break that door tomorrow because I need that. I need what's behind that door because I need the money to pay for my bills. So I need to be strong enough to do that. And then I'm going to eat sugar and I'm going to drink coffee and I'm going to do all these things to make sure I have enough energy to do that again and again and again. And it's a never ending journey. But when you have the key, you don't need to do all that. You don't need all these energy drinks, because you're like, oh, it doesn't have to be this hard. So I don't know if it makes sense, the correlation, but for me, my whole life just felt like that. It felt like I always had to break down doors. And I felt so proud of myself, because this is the weird part. I felt so strong. And I was like, I'm the strongest person I know, because I can break doors every day. And look at me, how fabulous I am. And, we do that. We create this amazing story about resilience, that it's like, you should be like me. Like, if you want to be fabulous, you should be just like me and break down doors every day. And that's going to prove how worthy you are. And that's not how it should be. Like, it is this way, unfortunately, but there are other ways. You can just be like, oh, I can just have keys. And I know I will always have a key, and the key will always find me. And that makes me worthy. Like, I don't need to be strong in that sense, in that physical sense. I don't need to control, like, every day, how is my energy level? Do I have enough? Because I know it's always going to come. So yeah, that was my last year.
Thank you so much for sharing, and thank you so much for your vulnerability. I find that is very beautiful. And I was actually thinking, when you said that it was kind of like the weakest thing to ask for help, and like for that was a no-go. Something I had to learn as well, just to not be like super smart about it. It was my learning as well, but actually asking for help is one of the biggest strengths, and to show us that we don't have it all figured out and so on. I find this is so much stronger than just being able to do it all by yourself and so on, because let's be honest, we need each other. We're humans, and that is a beautiful thing. And we should unlearn this learned, and I have it so ingrained as well, this hustle culture and priding ourselves of pushing our boundaries. There is 100% a place for getting yourself out of your comfort zone, and like to push yourself a little bit of what's kind of comfortable for you to grow. But if we do this on a constant, like if we do this all the time, every day, we end up burning out. And I do feel like this feminine energy of resting, of letting flow, of reaching our goals with ease, like that is what we all need more of. So thank you so much for sharing this. What
Yes,
I wanted to ask you.
Sure.
Who would you say was the Roswitha a year ago, and who is the Roswitha now? Like, in what forms would you say you have evolved and changed and grown?
What a good question. She was a scared girl, and now she's an adult. It's not like she's no longer scared, but she's an adult. I think because when we have a dysregulated nervous system, we're not adults. We're just kids at different ages. So depending on the age that you're stuck in, you can have 3 years old, you can be 12 years old, you can be 19, you can be 4, it doesn't matter. So you're always going to operate from that age, that emotional age. So that's why you're going to have tantrums. That's why you're going to have certain things. So Roswitha a year ago was a very scared little girl who felt that nobody's protecting her, who felt that everything is against her, who felt there's no way out, there's no solution, there's nothing. That's why she wanted to die, because there was no way out for her to see. Roswitha today is an adult who knows that no matter what's going to happen, no matter what, like literally, I can lose everything again. It is not going to affect me the same way, because as an adult, I understand that I have tools. I can ask for support. I can Google things. I'm never alone, because I do believe in God, and I don't believe in God in the religious sense. I believe in God in the universal sense, like in the energy around us and how we're all connected. So I'm never alone. As an adult, I'm never alone. As a child, I felt alone, and I truly believed I was alone. So that's the biggest difference. And I think as we all learn to regulate our nervous system, learn to make peace with parts of us who are unhealed and were never heard and were never seen and were never validated, as we do this continuous work, we're all going to become adults. And as adults, there's going to be less conflict, because adults, like real adults, can navigate conflict. And conflict is not bad. but it doesn't have to be this shitty, reaction. We can say, hey, you've hurt me with this, or what you said hurt me, and here's how I internalize it, and here what I want from you. And then the other person can say their own piece, and we can have a beautiful conversation. And in the end, a conflict will always bring us closer. But if we have conflicts as children, then children just get mad, they hit each other, and then they're like, I will never talk to you again. I'm going to take my toys and go home. And I mean, that's how children argue. And we see this around us, that most people argue the same way because most people are still children from an emotional age. Like, you only get older physically, but your emotional age was stuck somewhere in your childhood, depending on where the biggest trauma has occurred for you. And you got stuck on that. And until you validate that child in you, it's never going to disappear. You can study anything. Like, again, cognitively, you can be so freaking smart, and emotionally, you can still be a 3-year-old. And that's why, even if you, and I know you know this, they say, oh, when you speak to people, speak like they would be 4 years old. And there's truth to that, because if your audience is unhealed and they do not do any trauma work, they are 4 years old. Most likely they are 4 years old. So you need to speak to them like that. If your audience has done more work, then they're going to be more adult-like. So you don't need to speak to them like they're 4 years old, if it makes sense.
Absolutely. There's actually this, I don't know if you know it, there's this beautiful art piece that was, I think, at Burning Man a few years ago. And basically it's two grown-ups sitting crouched down on the floor, back to back, like away from each other, both like looking in different directions. And you could see kind of like that they were fighting. And it was all made of metal wire, so you could see through it. And inside there were two children who were kind of like towards each other, holding each other's hand, and you could see how the children were like wanting the other person's attention. And that picture was standing, I think, really for every conflict, that even if we feel like so upset and blah, 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 actually behind that, there's just always a hurt child who wants like the other person's, or like back then, mommy's or daddy's attention and love. And that art piece like really stuck with me and always touches my heart when I see it. So thank you so much for sharing this. My last question that I wanted to ask you is, for everybody who doesn't know you, what symbolizes the crown that you're wearing for yourself?
You have the best question. It's such a pleasure to be interviewed by you.
Well, thank you so much.
I believe we all need things that have meaning behind it. So that's why you'll see me always drinking from mugs or from bottles or anything that have messages on. Even this one, it says love. Like, see, like it says love, and it's because I believe everything has energy. So every single thing is made out of atoms who have energy in the end. It's just a different frequency. So that's why we don't see, they don't move. There's a different thing of matter. And the crown, when I put on the crown, I step into this version of me that I want to embody. So every single thing, my earrings that I wear, every single thing that I wear has a meaning behind it. So I think if there's one piece of advice that I would want everybody to put into practice, is more what thing you could wear, you could drink from, you could put on, whatever it is that symbolizes something so profoundly to you that when you use that thing, you can literally be embodying a version of you. So for me, the crown is more like me stepping into the manifesting queen that I am, and knowing that, and not to mention that I love beauty and all this. So for me, this crown is so beautiful that it always makes me like, oh, that's so beautiful to put it on. It makes me feel pretty. It makes me feel strong. It makes me feel powerful. And it reminds me of the power that I have inside to be seen on the outside. I think that's what symbolizes for me. It's like, because crown always symbolizes, the queen, and the queen is someone who has power and has like power. So when I put it on, it's like I remind myself that this is what the power that you can see, that it's already inside me. So especially if I don't have power, if I don't see my power, putting this on is like, you have it. Do you see it? Because your eyes need to see it in order to believe it. So I'm like, I have it. It's there.
Thank you so much for sharing. That is absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. And I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for this beautiful conversation, for your vulnerability. I myself know how hard it is to share your hardships with kind of like on the internet with an audience, and how
Mm.
easy it is on the internet to show that you have all figured it out and you're always happy. And I feel like the world needs more of this authenticity. So thank you so much for sharing this. And thank you so much for sharing all your wisdom. It was just beautiful. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Aw. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for allowing the safe space where we can have such a nice conversation of women, being equal, sharing stuff, sharing information, sharing knowledge, sharing experiences. And I'm very, very honored to be here with you. So if people want to find more about what I do, I'm on Instagram at Roswitha Herman. I'm sure Hannah will put all the links in the description. And right now I'm still doing free releasing. So you can sign up for one. It's going to be the link in the bio, and we can release money blocks from your nervous system, which is going to be fun. So as long as I'm going to do this, I don't know, maybe for a month or so, I do suggest you get on board, because this is exactly what I do with my private clients, and it costs over $500 per session. So to get this for free is definitely worth it. And if you cannot buy anything else from me right now, but if you feel inspired to know more, you can always DM me. I have the Manifesting Queen course where I'm helping you triple your revenue, whatever your revenue is right now, and you're going to have the step-by-step process of manifesting. Or if you feel inspired by my story and how I work with people, you can ask more questions about how we can work together one-on-one. So I just wanted to mention this in case people are interested in taking this conversation forward.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Roswitha.
Now, I would like to know from you, what was your biggest takeaway and how can you put it into action starting now? Leave a comment below or hop over to Instagram at HannahWiz_ and leave a comment under the post of today's episode. Thank you so much for watching, and never forget to shine your light.